experience, right? And that we have these the spectrum of emotions, right, that make us all human, and that we need to recognize that. So, um, I love the depth of that. I love that that message is there and comes through, and we appreciate the context of what your hope others recognize in your work as well. And maybe that is a good segue to my next question. And any of you could take this, because I think a lot of times where we see the benefit of localizing access to anything, but especially art, right? Not having to get up and go to a museum to experience your work, which is such a wonderful part about you loaning us your work so that we can experience it on a daily basis and maybe see it in a new way based on the way we're feeling, or the way the interaction we had before we came into the office, and the meeting we just got out to, and how your works evolve, and how those meetings change depending on who and what we bring to it. But I was wondering if you have any kind of recommendations or advice on how to experience art and how to look at your pieces, and maybe using your own experience as a way like you digest and see, and the way you ask questions, and how do you individually experience art, and what are some of the things maybe you could share with our group on what they can do to like maybe fully realize what your pieces mean, or what the artists are trying to say in those pieces. That's a convoluted question, and there's a lot to unpack
A
there. But
big
like,
question.
how should we look at art? Like I think a lot of that is again, that's it's a loaded question, but like, you know, you're a beginner. What do you do?
I could say it's from when I was a kid. My I used to have a tutor basically. I was her only student growing up to the sixth grade. But our field trip days was going to museums. And she knew how much I used to love going to museums, because that was like the escapism. So I used to look at paintings, from the 1700s or whatever, Renaissance paintings, and I just used, me growing up being the only child, I used to make or pretend like I was in that painting and what was going on. And I noticed that I still do that today. I done it with, all the artists that we have there now. I always imagine what story is in that painting. And it may not completely match what their story is, but I always like to look to see what I can get out of that story. And some people see something totally different, which you and I have experienced, right? And so even when I created my own artwork, just through photography, um, I have my story, but I want people to look at it and create their own stories. I want people to look at it and say, this person is going through this, or, what is this person going through? And I think they're happy and they're not happy. I want people to come up with their own stories, because that's to me what gives it life, because everyone is not so much of passing judgment, but you look at someone smiling and they're not necessarily the most happiest person in the world, you know? So we have to I think basically when you go to see any kind of piece of art, go with an open mind, and then even dig deeper. Like, I really like that piece, or that piece is disturbing, but let me look up that artist and what are they saying about this piece? And it gives it a whole nother new perspective.
And I love that. I love that, bringing your own experience, but then also seeking out explanation and context, which I think we got a little bit more of today.
Yeah.
I want to kind of pivot to the an ending here, but I want to ask this question. I want to give each of you the chance to answer, and it's like a two-part question, because I think I know the answer to the first part, which is why I want to set you up for the second part. But um, I guess the first question is, how can we, or our community, support the arts, and specifically Black artists, right? That are, whether it's the folks that we have exhibited here or others. How can we continue to support artists in our community? And then, what are artists or unartists that excites you, that you can recommend that we look more into?
Mm. I can say buy it.
Yeah.
Buy art, buy art, buy art.
Buy
I
our
are
art.
big all caps.
Yes,
Okay.
it supports us. If you like it, buy it. Uh, One of my favorite artists. I have so many. It's hard, especially when it comes to photography. Um, Herbert's. I grew up with Herbert's, liking his art. Um, Gordon Parks. Um, I, I don't know if I,
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry.
yeah. Well, I don't. One of my cousins, my first cousin, he's passed away now, but Howard Bingham, he was a well-known photographer for Muhammad Ali. He's my cousin. I looked up to him a lot. Um, I don't want to put a bad name on him, but he wasn't the nicest person in the world with me growing up. He didn't want to show me or go with him to any of his shoots. So that's the end of that conversation. But I still admired his work that he's done with he's done a lot of celebrity black celebrities, I should say. So he was a great photographer.
Howard Bingham wrote
Yes.
it down. We're gonna have we'll distribute a list afterwards. Eric,
Um,
since you're unmuted, I'll throw it to you. How can we support the arts and who's an artist that excites you or you can
Yeah, I definitely think um like this is a really good way to like having conversations, asking questions, showing the work, telling people about the work, talking to the artist, that really helps. Of course, we said buy the work, that'd be the greatest thing. Yeah. And then one of my artist that still inspires me is a artist named Chuck Close. He
Mm,
recently died, like I think about 2 years ago. He did these really giant portraits, 10 feet, 10 feet by 10 feet. Kehinde, oh no, Kehinde Wiley. I think he's going some troubles right now. I believe,
mhm.
but his work is really good.
His work is awesome.
Yeah, he makes these 30-foot portraits, and people sometimes people compare his work to my work. There's some similarities, and I do take inspiration from some of his work. And then also like to answer the question like you asked about like how do you come in and looking at work? Like I believe you can come in at any level, like whatever level you are, whatever knowledge that you have. If you just like the way it looks, that's good enough, And then
mhm.
as you get older, you start to add and want to know deeper. And it's also good to know what the artist wants, but you don't always have to. But also know sometimes some artists are like, yeah, I want you to have this type of response, this response to the work, and that's fine too. And then sometimes when you come back to work, go through all of your experience, you're gonna look at it differently. It's sort of like when you're really young and you watch a movie, like you've seen the Goonies, right? And then you're a kid, you really like watching the kids go on an adventure, and then you're 40 years old and you watch it again, you're like, these kids were kind of stupid. They probably shouldn't have done all that, But then that's okay too, because you
Yeah.
gained all that experience.
I
And so,
still
like,
love the Goonies.
what's that?
I still love the Goonies though.
Oh yeah, I love the movie. I still love the movie. I still have nostalgia for it. But like as an adult, I've been like, maybe you shouldn't have gone down the hole, man. But
Yeah.
but and that's okay too. You
Right.
come back with different experience. You're like, oh, you thought this artist was the greatest artist, and you look back like, oh, he was good, but this artist is better, and that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Interpretation evolves and it grows with us.
That's right.
Amazing. Larissa, I'll give you the final word there.
Yeah, okay. Well, just because we were just talking about it and I didn't say my piece about it, just
Yes, please do.
supporting art is the best way to support artists is, buy the art. And looking at art, you just, if you like it, great. If you don't, it's not a big deal. It's just not your thing. I mean, art is so subjective. When you look at art, if, think about visually, what is it you like about it? Ask yourself the question, what is it that draws your eyes to it? I mean, as a creator of art, the way that we make art is based on the things that we want to see in our own art, like the color palette, the brushstrokes, the markings, the subject matter. So it's subjective in the way it's created, and it's subjective in the way it's viewed. And then, of course, learning about the artists and what their intention was behind the piece can always provide new meaning. But everybody is unique, and they come into a piece with their own perspective and background. So they're going to put their story onto it. It's going to overlay the image, and it's going to create a meaning entirely different from what the artist intended. And that is what art is about. It's visually communicating, but it's not about necessarily communicating the idea of the artist, because there's a conversation, like I said, that happens. The viewer is an important part of creating art, because we make it. It's just like if you write a song, it needs to be heard in order to be appreciated, and art needs to be seen. What were the other questions you were asking about the artists who we admire?
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Besides
favorite.
me.
Well, I was gonna say Britt Samuels, and I do want to say that the first time that I met him at the art show and I saw his work, I bought his work immediately, and it's on my wall. And so, like, yes, and Eric, your work is next. I'm
Oh,
gonna try and get everybody's artwork.
thank
Yeah, news to you, right? But yeah, it's I admire my colleagues here, and I
I
love their
love that.
work. But one of my other favorite artists, his name is Kadir Nelson. He is a Black illustrator, and he has done work for the cover of The New Yorker. He's illustrated books. He's illustrated record album covers. He did the Michael Jackson album, which is like the montage. He did Drake's album cover of him and like I can't remember if it's a younger version of him, but he's a magnificent painter. And I admire his work a lot, greatly. So
I
yeah.
love it. Well, thank you for those recommendations. I think we have a few more folks to look into, an infinite amount of folks to look into. But we want to really acknowledge your presence here and how thankful we are to you three for joining us for this conversation. And more importantly, sharing your work and your talents, Britt, especially in curation, to bring your expression and your art to our offices. We're deeply appreciative, and we look forward to hosting you what we hope is in a few months here for in-person reception, where folks can get to know you more and pepper you with all the questions they were unable to ask during this session. But we'll be happy to share this recording with our office, and we look forward to seeing you soon in the near future. And with that, we'll conclude our session. Thank you very much, Britt Samuels, Eric Jones, and Larissa
yeah.
Brown.
Thank you
Thank
very much. I
you.
appreciate
Yeah.
this.
Bye.
Bye.